telling you, it goes back to the people. We are humans with problems, with opportunities, with challenges, whether it's in your personal life or in your B2B corporate life. And by having the right experience, that's something that we're prioritizing building at People.ai. How do we make each of the touch points a way that it really makes your life easier? Again, isn't it amazing when you find what you were looking for? Isn't it amazing when you open your email or your LinkedIn and you get somebody with a comment that is like, oh my God, did they read my mind? We now have the technology. We have the artificial intelligence to be able to tell what is it that you're looking for. So let's build experiences, again, being customer-centric, because people buy from people. And we're just people trying to do the best every day.
In the midst of rapid AI integration and constant emerging technologies, are some CMOs losing sight of the human element? Our guest today insists that in order to be successful in marketing, you have to make that people connection. Welcome to Marketing Trends. I'm Jeremy Bergeron. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Mariana Cogan, the Chief Marketing Officer for the revenue operations and intelligence platform, People.ai. Drawing from her years of international business experience, Mariana joins us today and talks about what CMOs can do to prioritize things and maximize their tenure at a company, as well as keep and maintain that customer connection. Mariana also recounts her formative years growing up in Mexico and living there and in Japan, and how those experiences really shaped her perspective on business and life. And before we get into the podcast, I want to give a special shout out to our sponsor, Salesforce. Salesforce brings marketing and engagement together. Learn more at salesforce.com/marketing. Now let's dive into a really cool conversation with Mariana Cogan, the CMO of People.ai. Mariana, it's good to see you. Where are you in the world today?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me joining you. Super excited to be talking with you, Jeremy, today. I am actually in Chicago today.
Okay, Chicago. You there on a business trip or are you a personal trip?
No, it's business. Really exciting. I'm doing a co-presentation on that super pipeline printing machine. So I'm in Chicago today, and then I'm flying today to Austin after here.
Tell us about the super pipeline printing machine, because I think everyone would agree that's a great place to start.
Awesome. So, as you might know, I used to work for PTC, a very large software company. And back in 2019, I could see that the world was changing. We were really moving into this new world, digital first, and everything had to be faster. So the GTM, structure wasn't really there, to be helping us. So I needed to solve for three problems. I was casting the net too wide, which really means that you're wasting resources. Then we didn't have account intelligence, which really meant that we were kind of going, blind into life. And we were not customer centric. We were really asking people to fill in a form and we will call them tomorrow. So that's a no. So went to buy three phenomenal technologies, as you know, People.ai, 6 Sense and Drift. And with that, built a pipeline printing machine, because literally we got it up and running. I bought the three technologies on the same day. Big splash on what I wanted to do. And from implementation, within 4 or 5 months, we had delivered $20 million in pipeline in one business unit.
Wow. Okay. You purchased the license to 6 Sense, Drift, and what was the other one?
People.ai, where I now work.
And People.ai, your company. So you basically...
that's how I moved. That's how amazing the pipeline printing machine is, that I ended up moving to work for People.ai.
Wow. So you basically put together a strategy using all three of those platforms, essentially.
Exactly. It was pretty much the digital transformation. I know it's a word that we sometimes use a little bit too much, but digital transformation is using technology to solve problems. And I wanted to produce much more pipeline in a world that is digital first, where, as we all know, especially in the B2B space, in complex deals, the buying group is getting bigger by the day. There are more people that have to say yes, and they don't really want to be talking with you all the time. So rather than being guessing, think about it. Marketing and sales, we're always guessing and building extra things. Well, let's transform it, get that data in place so that you can really start building that super path to cash. And with that, we want to improve, efficiency, productivity. The sales teams were producing more because by now you have them very concentrated on what is it that they should be doing. You are telling them how to do things in the best way. Just think about it. Sports people, they become the best. I mean, Tom Brady, because they have the data. They know what is that ideal feeding, sleeping, training, massage, like all these different components, so that they fine tune everything, and you go and you win the Super Bowl. The same thing is what I wanted to do with marketing, and that's, I tend to talk about this topic quite frequently. Building a pipeline printing machine, because you have the data, you know the perfect path, you succeed.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, I know there's layers and levels to where we could go to talk about that, and I'm fascinated by that approach from an executive who ABM is such a big part of our approach and strategy as well. And to your point, these very interesting B2B buyers are there's groups of them. They work in silos. They collaborate somewhat, but the process is so interesting and being creative, and the length of the amount of conversations and the value along the way to get to a high 6 or 7 figure deal or larger is really interesting. So I definitely can appreciate that, and I want to back up a little bit because there's something that I know some people will certainly be curious about. Is okay, well, who is Mariana? Like, who is this human being? And what I know of you, and I'm curious about this, is you were born in Mexico City, right? Born in Mexico City. Then at age 8, you went to your dear mom and you said, "Mom, there's a Japanese school here that I want to go to. So I want to go to this Japanese school." Your mom said yes. And then you studied at this school till you were 18 years old. Then you moved to Japan to study economics and study. So that, 2 sentences is just so interesting to me. But let's start at the first part, which is, okay, you're in Mexico City. That's not, super unusual, but the whole Japanese school, down the road, what was that about? Did you get exposed to some Japanese culture and you were drawn into that world? Why that school? Why did you stay till 18? I'd love to hear the story here.
It's a really unusual story. First of all, I had to say that I have the most amazing mother on the face of the earth. She's a mathematician, relatively unusual, in her times. And I used to go to a Montessori school. And one day, yes, I told my mom that I had learned everything that I could learn at the Montessori school. So it was time to go to a Japanese school. As you can tell by now from your previous question on the pipeline printing machine and this one, I like doing unusual things. I like that sense of being able to do what people think that is not possible. And I think at an early age, it was that going to Japanese school. I loved it. I have a passion for Japanese language, for Japanese characters. And as a matter of fact, I read recently in a book that says that, how to get to success. And it's about pursuing that thing that you're passionate about. So I was passionate about Japanese language. So I stayed, 10 years in Japanese school in Mexico City. I used to go to Japanese extra lessons on a Saturday at 8 a.m. because I had a passion for it. So I didn't really see it as a sacrifice. So by the time that I finished high school, all what I wanted was to go and live in Japan. That was like the center of my existence. And I got a job with the Mexican embassy in Tokyo. I was going to be there for a year, working for the embassy and studying Japanese. And I loved the place. It was different. It was difficult in certain areas, but I have a passion for doing things that nobody has done before. So it was time to go to school. I applied to a university in Japan, and it's kind of the rest is history.
Wow. Okay, so what sparked the passion for Japanese culture and Japanese language? Like, what was the initial thing that got your attention at 8 years old or before that?
I think it's the writing.
Okay,
The writing is
interesting.
absolutely beautiful because it's got this combination. It's beautiful. I mean, you've seen all those different drawings with the characters. They're very beautiful, but at the same time, they have a very logical way of formation. One side provides the way you read it. One side is the drawing that looks like a tree, looks like a woman. So I like that since I was at a very young age. That combination of beautiful but almost data driven, if you want to call it that way, very
Mm.
structured. I just had a passion for that combination.
Wow. So what was it like for you, coming from the culture of Mexico City and being a woman and then the culture of Japan, which did you see lots of similarities like, oh, this is like, or was it completely different? And how did you kind of assimilate? Because the culture, of course, in South America, in Mexico, I mean, there's a clear culture there, especially with women and mothers. And so now stepping into this almost entrepreneurial world where you're leaving home and going into study and live there in a totally different culture and the way that women are. And so what was that like for you?
On one hand, it was the fact that I grew up in a Japanese school since I'm 8. So I'm almost like half Japanese, half Mexican, more than anything else. So there was a component of familiarity. There is also a portion that Japanese and Spanish have the same accent. English is very different,
Mm.
but Japanese and Spanish actually have the same a, e, I, o, u. So it's a little bit easier from that perspective. There's a portion that is also very similar on the family component, really prioritizing relationships. I tend to talk about the fact that I build very strong relationships with my vendors because I really believe that by being both in Mexico and in Japan, that human relations. And that's what I love working for People.ai because it's people, people buy from people. It's all about people. It's about relationships. So from that front, it was very similar to Mexico and to my Japanese school in Mexico. But then you're touching on the second component, being a female in Asia, being a female in Japan. It's a challenging, yes. Things have changed in a huge way, but back in the day, it was still a very male-centric, society. But again, I had the advantage of I like doing the things that nobody has ever done. So rather than thinking about, oh my God, it's daunting, I'm the only one, everything is different, it was like, what if I took it to my advantage? I can speak Japanese, almost like a Japanese, which really means that I can be very Japanese when I need it. But at the same time, I'm foreigner, so I can break the rules. When you can play that way that you can assimilate, you can understand when you have to respect the difference, but you also understand when you can push the boundaries, when it's going to be good for everybody, that you take a stand because you are in a very privileged space. I've always been very lucky to have a platform because I was non-Japanese, but I spoke Japanese like a Japanese, so I could have my platform. Now,
Mm.
And we'll talk about, at some point a little bit more about diversity and inclusion, but I'm about the 1% of, female Latin in the technology industry. So I have a platform that allows me to be different.
Mm.
And that is what creates the helping everybody to be like, it's okay. So in Japan, it was okay. I was a female. Yeah. And I wasn't Japanese. And I don't even look a little bit Asian. But then making the most out of the fact that it was so different. But it was
Mm.
different. And it's a very different culture. And I love it with a passion.
Oh, that's fantastic. What led you into the marketing field? Was that in Japan or when did this, I always like to say, like, when did the dance of marketing begin for you?
That's not a straight line because, as you mentioned, I'm an economist. So I
Uh-huh.
really started my career in business development, investment banking.
Hmm.
Um, it was when I started running. I had been running a couple of companies in Japan. Then I was offered a job with an American software company. Again, you're talking about being different. This person, Daniel Johnson, phenomenal mentor and sponsor, he needed somebody to run his Latin American and Japan business. And I might be maybe, especially back in the day, the only one who could do it. So I grabbed
Wow.
to that opportunity, moved to the US, Then my son was born, and I'm getting into a little bit of a longer answer to your question.
Sure.
I quit the corporate world for a good number of years to stay at home with my son. And when I wanted to come back, I'm like, okay, I have a marketing background. Because I have been, when you run different operations, you're always responsible for marketing, business, development always has a component of marketing. But this is when the whole digital thing was starting to happen. And going back to the way that I mentioned that I love the Japanese characters because they have that beauty, but that order, digital marketing is that point of intersection between having a very data mind, more operational, but then the beauty of the brand, the content, that's when everything really came together. And I started now working 100% in the marketing space.
So what drew you to People AI, like .ai? Because to me, you could have a lot of different opportunities. You have a really pretty unique skill set in that, you can work the Latin America market, you can work in, a Japan market, certainly a US market. So a lot of opportunity, I'm sure, on your plate. What was the opportunity about People AI?
I think it was a combination of things. First of all, I had bought from them as part of the digital transformation. So from a purely technology perspective and the solution that they offer, I truly believe that is the future of how GTM is going to be run. Because as I mentioned with the analogy that I made on the sports, you don't expect by now that a sports hero it's going to be just kind of exercising and kind of eating. So I truly believe that from a technology perspective, they are the future of the world. The data layer that they have is just just amazing. So that was only more from a technology perspective. I do believe that is the future. But at the same time, when you work with a vendor for a good number of years, you get to really experience their vision, the mission. You really get to experience, the CEO, Oleg, is phenomenal. And I really wanted to make my move to a place that could really let me be who I am. It is pretty amazing that, in the technology space, we have 2 women as part of the board of directors. The C-suite, the CFO is also, female. So for me, it was that combination, that almost perfect triangle between a technology that I have seen how it works, I trust how it works, the vision, the mission, but then also the people that would allow me to really continue, flourishing and provide that platform that it's so important to me because it's core to how I see the world, being able to help more people, sponsorship, mentorship. And I think that amazing combination, it's People.ai. I love it.
Your clients put, a lot of faith in your platform to help them become, more efficient and obviously grow revenue. How do you help build that confidence as the CMO?
That's a great question that you're asking because, especially in this day and age where there's so much in the market, there's so much noise out there, there's so much content to consume, everybody says different things. So I think it really almost boils down to 2 components. First, really almost like a spreading the word on that mission and vision, because at the end of the day, when I'm talking about technology, and it's a lot of the technology is phenomenal for that, data ingestion, the filtering, the matching, the prediction, the AI component. You have to trust the data. And in order to do that, you get into is the vision and the mission, because that's where we invest the money. When you look at People.ai's product roadmap, we don't really prioritize as much of many of the pixels and the colors and the pretty interface. But we have the trust on the data we're doing because we understand that people connection is extremely important. Then as a CMO, my role is to make sure that that's clearly communicated, that we're getting, third parties to validate all the data, components, that we get into really good case studies. Because if you think about it, as a buyer, you are taking risks by investing in a technology. There is an opportunity, a promotion, career development for you, for your family. So it's a big responsibility to be able to deliver as a vendor. And I think as a CMO, again, on that messaging from the vision, getting third-party validation, the case studies, like all that combination of that content, positioning, messaging, that is my responsibility so that I help my buyers to make the best decisions that they can.
I love this. You wrote a recent Forbes piece where you said that CMOs need to become quota carrying leaders, accountable for delivering that like predictable pipeline of opportunities in the organizations. Can you tell us why it's so important for CMOs to do this?
It's a piece that is controversial because normally
Indeed.
it's very controversial because most people associate the CMO with the brand, with the communications, and believe me, those parts are very important. But the challenge with the CMO's role is that we cover so many disciplines. If you think about it, is the brand, is the creative, is the communication, social media, PR, and I'm just talking about one part. Then you get into everything that is demand generation, your campaigns, your events, your website, and so on. I could line up maybe like 20, 30 different disciplines that I have to be looking after. As an economist, I know very well that there is unlimited desires for limited resources. So it's all about the prioritization. If you don't prioritize being responsible for that contribution to the revenue, you are not going to have the time, the credibility, the support that is needed to take care of all those other things that are still important. I'm not saying that you only do demand generation and then that's it, you forget about the rest of the things. What I'm saying is that you have to prioritize because, as we know now, the average is 25 months tenure. The brand, there's going to be certain things that are just going to take a little bit longer and they're a little bit harder to measure. But if you start by really owning to that contribution to the pipeline, to the revenue, you are going to be able to show to your board with proven results. You're going to have your peer support, you're going to get the budget, you're going to get the support that you need to being able to do all the other things that are extremely important. You just asked me in the previous question, like, how do you make sure that people feel comfortable with the quality of the technology that People.ai brings to the table? And of course, the branding, the messaging, the corporate campaigns, it's really important. But if you don't own that contribution to the revenue, then you're always going to want to be at the big kids table, but then not that much because it's a little bit uncomfortable to own a number. It's uncomfortable. But that by putting the steps in the right order, you prioritize your efforts. And that's why I think that it's extremely important for CMOs to have longevity in the tenure and to be able to have a platform that allows you to help many more people, including your customers and your team, is that you need to be able to prioritize these things.
I mean, you talk about one way to align with sales and marketing is to have a marketing leader have a quota carrying accountability. And, I think about this age old question of sales and marketing and how they can really work in partnership. Well, if I'm in charge of sales and you're in charge of marketing and we're both responsible for contributing to we're both quota carrying, executives and our teams understand that as well and add value there. That's huge. I mean, that's tremendous. Has that been pretty useful in aligning, marketing and sales for you? And what other strategies are helpful when it comes to aligning marketing and sales?
It's been phenomenal. As a matter of fact, when we present to the board, I present pipeline for everybody. We don't make a differentiation of what sales, what's marketing. We have deeper analysis, of course, separately on what tactics are working, what channels are working. But that presentation is done together, and I'm the one that presents that portion. We have a weekly interlock between sales and marketing for that strategic. It's not a place where we just go and present and say, hey, this is the changes to the brand, or this is changes to the creative, or these are the events are coming up. That happens again separately. In this interlock, we look at the numbers together, and we can do it. And again, Why is it that I joined People.ai? Because it provides me that data set, that clear path to success without having silo representation of the data. So both Zach Sikora, my partner on the sales side, we look at the same data, we look at the same, am I delivering on that marketing engagement? Is he delivering on the sales engagement? Where do we see gaps that maybe marketing should be having different campaigns? How do we really, course correct when we have gaps? So what I would say that is almost like 3 steps. The data has to be a source of truth that both parties can deliver. The accountability has to be in all the parties, and then the orchestration on the day-to-day, it's really owned by both parties getting together on weekly basis to really look at pipeline together.
You have been a long, strong advocate of diversity and inclusion. And I know this is really important, especially in the climate, today. Tell us about some of the great work you've done and continue to do to promote inclusivity, and then why, having diversity, especially in the C-suite, is really so essential.
It is definitely by now, a topic that, as you mentioned, I've had a passion for a long time. By now, I make it like it. I must be able to talk about it for every single thing that I do, because it's really core to to who I am as a person. I think by now we all know that more diverse companies are more innovative, and more innovative companies are more diverse. Because as simple as the fact that you're opening the table to different points of view. If we had continued going with the same crowd, the same opinions, nothing is going to happen. I think by now, if you have gender diversity, the likelihood of financial outperformance is 25%. And when you have ethnicity diversity, that percentage increases to 36%. So now we know that it has to be done. But it's a little bit complicated sometimes because, it's just one more thing in the agenda of people to, to do. So what I've been very passionate about doing is really sponsorship. I know we talk a lot about mentorship, and it's really important. You should always have a mentor. I always recommend it to people. But my obligation is to be a sponsor, which really means that I'm going to be able to represent those who are not in the room when certain decisions need to be made. You always want to have a sponsor that talks about you when you're not there. When people are thinking about, hey, we have this amazing project, it's really important, it's going to be the future of the company. You want there to be somebody who says, hey, have you thought about Jeremy? Let me tell you that I worked with him in this project and he accomplished everything. Well, we want to go with the person that we already know. Could you please explain me why? I have shown, let's give it a go. It's being a sponsor means that you're willing to take risk, that you're putting yourself out there and taking the responsibility of these opportunities. So that for me is something that every executive by now should be doing. Companies are starting to have it as a program so that it's not anymore just about, a couple of executives trying. I think that everybody should have a program. You really need to work with HR. This is something that works extremely well, as you know, when you open a new position, if you have 10 requirements, 15, 20 requirements, a male is going to apply if they can do 5 of them. A female is going to want to have the 20, otherwise she's not going to apply under any circumstances because we feel underqualified. So lower the list of the requirements on the list. So those are, 2 things that are extremely important. And then thirdly, I think by now my obligation is really to make sure that it's not just what I do directly, but help many more executives in the space because, as I mentioned, as a female Latin, I'm part of the 1%. So it's my total obligation making sure that it's not just me, but that I really, empower the rest of the executives. I have some wonderful partnerships. Our COO at Harling is phenomenal at really ensuring that he's doing his part. And I think if we all do our part, it becomes a win-win scenario. It's not a favor to anybody. It's a win-win scenario because, as I just mentioned, you're going to be outperforming financially.
I love that. See, like you said, the data supports it when you have a mix of, of diversity and inclusion. Like there it is. So have more of that, and your organization wins. Everyone wins. So let's change the narrative around that. And I think that's really beautiful. As an aside, Mariana, do you know Teresa Barrera, the CMO for Publicis Sapient?
Yes.
You know her? Okay, because I was, as you're sharing, I'm like, if you don't know her, I want to introduce you two together because she reminds me of you and just her passion around these things of being, a Latin, brilliant.
One of the things that I'm looking to do is the way that you have a woman in revenue and genius revenue, there's different groups. I really want to get revenue en español. I think that would be super cool, because I work with a lot of very, very successful Latin females in the space, CMO from National Instruments, there's a lot of people who are really, really interesting that I think will be awesome. And we'll come back to talk to you a little bit more about it when the project starts taking a little bit of a better shape.
I like this. Well, you mentioned another one of my favorites, Ana Viega, who shout out to National Instruments, she's just amazing. She came on the show it was probably 4 or 5 months ago. She came in the studio and just phenomenal. Like you, phenomenal marketing leader.
We've been talking at length about, another topic that is really interesting, the humanization of brands. In the B2B, in the B2B space, we used to think that we sold into buildings, because we were selling into companies, but we sell into people. You couldn't quite almost make that division of like during the day you're in Amazon.com and Netflix.com, but then you go to work and now you're okay with a fax machine because you're enterprise B2B. So with Anna, I've been doing a lot of conversations about that humanization, because we sell into humans. It's all about the people. People buy from people. We solve problems for people. And we need to make it easier to digest the content, easier to learn, so that everybody can make better decisions. People can get promotions. People can get excited about doing things. And it's all about that, the humanization of the brand. I love Anna.
See, now you got me thinking, Mariana, I want to do a roundtable with you, Ana, and Teresa and talk about the humanization of brands. And that, to me, that's a topic that could be really interesting to talk about. Plus, from each of your perspective and view around technology and innovation and your background, we need to put a pin in this and circle back and do a roundtable and then probably break the internet, Mariana. We should be prepared to break the internet if we do that roundtable. I'm just saying.
Super exciting. You count me in.
So, Mariana, there was an article in Forbes titled, "Today's Enterprises Have a Complexity Problem. Their profits, productivity, and security depend on it." And the writer writes about, around the world, companies are facing a challenge with their tech stacks. As companies adopt new technologies like containers and microservices, they're left to choose to what extent these new solutions should replace existing technologies or be grafted onto previous layers in order to maintain backward compatibility. More often than not, the result is an impossibly complex patchwork of systems that is difficult to manage, maintain, and secure. The question to you, Mariana, is much of what People.ai does is help reduce complexity for your clients. Why do so many companies struggle to efficiently integrate new technologies, and how can they do it more successfully?
I think that it boils down to two or three components. Number one, I think, is the fact that everybody is looking for that shiny object. And that's what is created that almost like over purchasing of technology. You see something that it looks really cool and you're like, oh my God, I want to have it. But many times without really thinking, what is the real problem? And what is it that it's solving? Does it really make sense? Or is it just that it was easy to understand and you thought that it was really super cool and you should have it? Because at the end of the day, and that kind of brings me to the second point, everything has to start with the data. One of the topics that we can discuss it at another time is when it comes something as forecasting. Do you really need an extra tool for forecasting? Or should you have the correct data from day one that allows you not to get into a place where you have to be producing 2 or 3 X's on pipeline because 2 are not going to close? If you had the data, you wouldn't need an extra tool. So it's really going back to what is the core problem so that you don't try to solve almost, the end problem, but you go to what is it that was missing. So first of all, as I mentioned, running for the shiny object. Secondly, not understanding what's at the core, that is what it's missing, making sure that data it's really being properly servicing the needs that you have. And then thirdly is that you really need to empower your people. You have to have the experts looking into it so that you can get into something that is really solving for productivity and not really adding layers of complexity. What I love about what People.ai does is that everything is back into your CRM system. It's not one more tool that you need to be learning how to use, that you buy it and then nobody really, uses it. But it's really making the most out of your CRM, especially in the GTM space. In the CRM, you're already investing. So now let's get it to work the way that it should be so you can have that command center that really puts everything together. You don't need one more piece that is working over here, but you really need that command center. And in order to get to that, you cannot be chasing after the shiny object. You have to really understand what is the core problem. And you need to train and empower your people so that you can really make the most out of it, so that you start moving into that next generation of artificial intelligence that lets you run a full command center in the area that you work.
Love that answer. So good. Like getting back to the why, what's behind this? What are we really solving for? And, I think it's so easy, especially in this landscape, to look at the marketing tech stack. The PDF online, there's so many trails of technologies you can buy, and it just gets bigger and bigger every day. And the use cases just grow more compelling. It's like, well, we need this thing, right? Because we have to have this thing. And I love you're just kind of pumping the brakes a bit of like, let's understand like what is really driving this and why do we need this? And I think that's just, again, it shows, an understanding of you can still move really fast by slowing down, right? You can still move really fast by slowing down.
That's what I love that quote, isn't it? That says, I would have written you a shorter letter if I had had more time.
Yep.
And I think the same applies for technology. Writing that shorter letter takes longer, but it's going to take you faster to delivering results, especially in the current macroeconomic environment where you really have to maximize your resources, making sure that every sales rep delivers as much revenue as possible. You cannot have them jumping around, as you say, that PDF of 50 different, it's not even 50, it's like 1,000.
So many, so many.
And you have to have them in alignment with marketing so that everything comes together. And we haven't even spoken about customer success. You really need to have marketing, sales, customer success working together in a very customer-centric way. And for that, again, you cannot be chasing shiny objects. You really need to go to the core of what you're looking to solve for in a way that you're empowering your people to really make the most out of everything that you do.
The next article is a Harvard Business Review article released this month. The title is Why AI Customer Journeys Need More Friction. The author writes about, in marketing circles, friction has become synonymous with pain point. Eradicating it, conventional wisdom goes, is crucial to building a customer-centric strategy that yields competitive advantage. Taking a cue from policy applications of behavioral economics, marketers seek to nudge people along the customer journey and remove friction in the battle against sludge. So she goes on to make a couple of points. Good friction is a touch point along the journey to a goal that gives humans the agency and autonomy to improve choice rather than automating the humans out of decision making. The question for you, Mariana, as someone who is familiar with AI, do you agree that it requires a balance between a smooth customer journey and the so-called good friction, as the author describes? If so, like how do you manage that balance at People.ai?
It's kind of interesting that, and I think it takes us back to the point that we were just talking about, that shiny object. It's very easy to make these big assumptions on what's good, what's bad. But the world is not that way. There are different shades of colors. 100% frictionless experience might work if you were maybe buying a soda in a buying machine that is so transactional that you really don't need any data point. By now, you just want to put your coin and get your drink. But even then, that has to be a very positive experience. So the assumption of just going into zero friction is better? No. Zero bad experiences, zero bad touch points is what it's important to remove. And we get into, from a customer journey perspective, we're starting to get into personalization. Mm-hmm. It's not about not interacting. It's about interacting with the right content to the right person at the right time. Sending me emails about, I don't know, a CMO in a B2C PLG, space, I'm not going to pay attention. Sending me a newsletter with what are the 10 trends in the B2B tech, like something that really talks to my problems, I really appreciate it. Isn't it amazing when you're looking for something and you find it? That is a good touch point. Isn't it amazing when you go into, a chat bot and they provide the asset that you were looking for? That is good friction because it's actually moving you to the next step. You got the asset that you wanted. Yes, you didn't have to make a call because you're not ready. But when you want to make that call, you want to have the right friction, somebody who answers you ASAP. We're not very patient in this day and age. So it's about the differentiation between bad friction and a good touch point that really moves you to the next step because it's personalized. It goes back, I'm telling you, it goes back to the people. We are humans. We are humans with problems, with opportunities, with challenges, whether it's in your personal life or in your B2B corporate life. And by having the right experience, that's something that we're prioritizing building at People.ai. How do we make each of the touch points a way that it really makes your life easier? Again, isn't it amazing when you find what you were looking for? Isn't it amazing when you open your email or your LinkedIn and you get somebody with a comment that is like, oh my God, did they read my mind? We now have the technology. We have the artificial intelligence to be able to tell what is it that you're looking for. So let's build experiences, again, being customer-centric, because people buy from people. And we're just people trying to do the best every day.
So many mic drop moments, Mariana, in these. I wish I had a mic drop button. I could just press mic drop, just so much value and so much gold. Who are the buyers? Like, who are your customers at People.ai?
We specialize on enterprise. We're the leaders in enterprise revenue intelligence. So I primarily sell into very large organizations that have very complex sales cycles. And we primarily talk with the leaders in sales, CROs, leaders in operations, CMOs, anybody that is involved, a lot of the operational leaders. But it's primarily, we're currently specializing in the B2B space, in the high-tech component, but it's in the summer that, we're going to be coming up with new offerings. We're starting to move into manufacturing. They have big challenges like everybody else. Life science, telecoms, we're starting to, expand our reach.
This is so awesome. Okay, you ready to get into some fun lightning round questions?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it. Before we get into the lightning round questions, I have to give a special shout out to our partners at Salesforce. Marketing Trends Podcast is brought to you by Salesforce. So when you think about marketing and engagement together, learn more at salesforce.com/marketing. We have Mariana Cogan, Chief Marketing Officer at People.ai, in the virtual studio. Mariana, the first question, and these are lightning rounds, so try to be quick if you can. And if you don't know, then you can say, oh, skip and we'll pass it. Okay, are you ready?
Perfect. Ready.
Okay, first question. What's the last time you tried something new?
10 weeks ago, I bought a puppy, a golden retriever. Crazy idea.
Okay. What is one life lesson you learned the hard way?
Everything is going to be okay. There's no need to have cortisol running all around your body. Everything is going to be okay.
I like that. What is an activity that makes you lose track of time?
The day before yesterday, I would have said puzzles. I love puzzles. But yesterday, in Chicago, I was at a place where they had a Pac-Man arcade. Oh my God, I love Pac-Man. I could have set all my meetings to be doing Pac-Man all day long. I got to 20,000 points. Very happy.
That's fantastic. Oh man. Okay. What if there was a book, if you could choose one book as a mandatory read for all high school students, which book would you choose?
I recently read a book that is called The Midnight Library. And it talks about not having regrets, because things that you didn't do, they might not have been as amazing that you're thinking now. So just enjoy your life the way that it is, and it's going to be okay. So I would say The Midnight Library.
Okay. What channels, high level, like what channels are working well for you?
Right now, definitely, our website with inbound, a lot of our physical events are actually performing really well.
Would you rather lose all of your old memories or never be able to make new ones?
That's a tough question.
That's a tough one.
I don't know if I can choose one or the other.
Let's say if you had to choose one, which would you choose?
I'm guessing that I would prefer my old memories. I don't think I would enjoy not remembering my son. So I would stay with the old ones.
Okay. What is one thing that you are betting on for the future? It could be personally betting on this thing or professionally. What is something you're betting on for the future?
Augmented reality, artificial intelligence. They're really coming. They're going to continue growing. It's the way of the future.
I agree. Okay, let's say tomorrow you fly back to, do you live in Austin?
No, I'm based in Boston.
You're based in Boston, but you're coming to Austin.
Yes.
Okay. Let's say you arrive wherever you're arriving tomorrow, and you get an email from the CEO that says, Mariana, the entire marketing team is gone. Now I need you to hire one role. What's the first role you're going to hire and why?
For a company like People.ai, I would say product marketing. Because a lot of your content, your humanization is going to come from really, having that fit to the market. In a company like PTC, I would have said demand generation, because you want to deliver that quota, that revenue that I mentioned before.
So we're seeing a lot of, consumer-facing brands like Wendy's and Chipotle. There's a lot of them that are, exploring the potential of virtual worlds, right? The metaverse and Web3 and all these interesting things. What do you make of this for B2B brands? What do you make of B2B brands, joining this virtual space, this virtual world? Any concepts or ideas or just thoughts around that in general?
I think it's going to start happening. I even mentioned that, and that's something that I'm looking to finalize it from a branding and creative perspective. When I talk about that command center, being able to really have all the data in a way that you can visualize it to make the best decisions, it's gonna have at some point to move to be something that might be step one, that augmented reality, And step two, we're going to start moving into much more of that virtual space. It's going to happen in the B2B because, again, going back to that humanization, B2B is just B2H, business to humans. So I think it's going to continue the same path, the same trends.
What is something that impresses you?
People's dreams. When people have a passion. I just had a breakfast with a good friend of mine here in Chicago, and I was asking her, like, how do you make things happening? She's got a wonderful business career and children and all these different things. And she's like, well, because I have a dream. And I want to make it. So I think people having a dream, I think is impressive.
What is your favorite app on your phone?
Okay, this one, I am going to sound a little bit old. WhatsApp, because I love being in touch with all my friends and family, around the world. So I have to say that is my favorite one.
Okay.
But there's some other things that are super cool.
What's the top like 2-3 apps? WhatsApp, what's another one?
What's another one that I use a lot? Of course, I fly so much that everything that is related to fly, and of course, I do a lot of things from a creative perspective. So I would say those are my top ones.
Okay. What is one skill that you believe everybody should have?
I would normally say that a data-driven mind, but I might say that is that socialization component, which is kind of like, I'm saying I'm contradicting myself. I believe that everybody should have a data-driven mindset, but I think that also everybody should have that compassion, authenticity, that it's really important to be able to help and have a really, fulfilling life.
Okay. If you could effortlessly pick up a new skill in an instant, what would it be?
I am naturally an introvert, so most probably being able to talk to a lot of people, being like a super good at that small chat that you walk into the room and you talk to everybody, that might be a skill set that I would enjoy.
See, I would guess that you're really good at that. Based on this conversation, I'm like, you're amazing conversation. What are you talking about?
Maybe you're a very good host.
Thank you. Okay, last question. What is one thing that you would like to do this year that you've never done before?
That is, I normally answer traveling because I love traveling, but this is going to be the year that I eat better and I sleep better. I'm going to eat healthy.
Okay. I join you on that. I join you. Let's do it. Thank you so much.
We should follow up next year and say, hey, did we eat?
Okay. Well, we're going to stay connected for sure. I already know this, but yes, we will. We'll definitely connect on that. Mariana, this was an exceptional conversation. I know I speak for me and the production team that got to listen in on this conversation. Just such an interesting background, a beautiful story that you're telling with just where you've come from, what you've done, and your passion around like this interesting intersection of technology and humans is really cool. So thank you for being here. Such an honor and a privilege. Mariana, have a great, fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who's going to be listening. I had an awesome time and look forward to continue the conversations.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel for more great marketing interviews with today's top industry leaders. And thank you to our partners at Salesforce. Salesforce brings marketing and engagement together. Head over to salesforce.com/marketing.